Great.
Yeah.
All right, well, good morning. I'm Gary Stewart. I'm the Communications Duty Officer Coordinator from the National Interagency Fire Center, and I work in the National Interagency Incident Communications Division. Most of you might have heard this presentation yesterday. I just want to do a real quick overview for the folks that weren't able to set in the communications breakout, and I appreciate you guys' time and listening to what I have to say. So we'll go ahead and get started. So some of the discussion points. Yesterday my presentation went for about 2.5 hours, or close to 3 hours, I'm not sure which. Cut it down quite a bit, and I just kind of want to recap some of the things. I want to go over the 2014 incident communication issues, the 2014 National Incident Radio Support Cache, NIRSC. That is part of the National Interagency Incident Communications Division, so just so you know when I'm talking about the NIRSC, that's the actual radio cache equipment in our shop. I want to cover briefly the interagency hotshot crew communication issues. We'll go over the AM frequency ordering process, the FM frequency ordering process, what the communications duty officer does, and what the communications coordinator does out at the gap level. Some of the pre-orders for our equipment, most of the logistics chiefs are the ones that are building those pre-orders, and I want to kind of touch bases on that, and then just close out the questions. So I'll try to keep this short, sweet, and simple. If you do have a question, please raise your hand, and we'll try to answer those questions as they come in, like I did yesterday. So one of the issues that we're seeing in the radio shop there at NICD in Boise is now that the radio equipment is no longer equipment, it's supplies, there seems to be a real disconnect either at the supply ordering unit or at expanded dispatch. We need to make sure that all of the orders that are going in for communications equipment or supplies are marked as time sensitive. We get a lot of problems with the COMMs calling us saying, hey, have you seen this order? We haven't even seen it yet because it's buried underneath somebody's pile for all of the supply orders. So if you can talk to your ordering folks or expanded dispatch, we greatly appreciate it. It'll help get the communications out there. Also want to make sure that everybody knows that NIFC only has so many frequencies. All of our temporary frequencies are time sensitive. They're either on a 21-day assignment or a 30-day assignment, and we need to make sure that they're used judiciously and released as soon as possible. Some of the issues, complexes, and their issues with building and breaking down multiple teams on a complex.
Could you speak a little bit louder, if you please? I've got the message that, yeah, that would be better.
That hit us pretty hard last year with all the different multiple teams going in on these complex orders. We want to ensure that if you're going in on an existing fire as a team, that you're checking your pre-orders and making sure you're not double ordering all of the systems. So we need to have real good coordination and planning, talking to the CDO, or if there's a communication coordinator or COMC out in the GAC, you need to be talking to them so that we make sure we're getting exactly what you need, but not additional orders. The other thing that hit us really hard last year is some of the teams are being given huge IA zone responsibilities. Our NIFC equipment isn't designed to cover an entire district. They're all low power 2-watt portable stuff. So if you're given in a large area of IA, you need to be talking to the local unit, whoever it is, the forest, the district, BLM, National Park, whoever they are that has that local jurisdiction, to see if you can use their existing system to do the initial attack. Your communications unit leader might have to do another an additional 205 to supplement just for the initial attack for that. They need to be talking to the local unit to see if you can do it, because our problem is not equipment, it is actually spectrum. So we need to make sure that we're using those frequencies as judiciously as we possibly can. Just briefly, the Type 3 teams that go out, we have direction. This might change, I don't know, but we want a NWCG qualified community leader or contact assigned to the incident if they're going to order any of our specialty equipment, a repeater, an aircraft link, crossband links, any of our specialty stuff. They need to be trained on that, know how to set it up, know how to maintain it, know how to retrieve it, inventory it, and ship it back to us. So that's one of the reasons why we have that in there. The other thing is if we have a Type 3 incident and the communications person is right there on the district, if he's doing both the fire and the district stuff, that could actually, somebody might suffer. He might not have time to do everything that needs to be done. So it's another reason why we'd like to have a qualified NWCG contact community leader assigned to a Type 3 incident. When we transition back to the local unit after one of our project fires, we want to ensure that the NIRSC equipment is, or NIRSC supplies, I guess I should say, is released as soon as possible. If you have a Type 3 team that needs to keep the radio equipment, the community leader that's outgoing needs to be talking to the CDO or the comm coordinator to ensure that we have reliable contact information before you guys leave, before that commandant leaves. We want to know who's going to be responsible for that equipment so that we have a good contact before you leave, so we can retrieve our equipment. The other thing is NIFC has 6 assigned VHF repeaters to us, and we have 5 NTIA repeaters for interoperability assigned to us. If you have a special repeater, anything above a C18 that comes out of the cache, we need to have those released back to us first. So your communicator might have to readjust the system to keep the C1 through C6 or the C8 through C12 assigned frequencies equipment to the fire so that they can release everything else. So because those are all time sensitive. All of the frequencies that we have, we generally don't reuse within a 150 nautical mile radius. So, and that's to protect the firefighters out there, to ensure there's no interference from anyone else. You know, we do a lot of work behind the scenes that nobody really understands on the frequency management part of it to ensure that you have no interference. So when we're reusing our frequencies, that's why we run out so much. All the temporary frequencies that we get, either air frequencies, we get all of our air-to-air AMs from the FAA. We get, first off, we get DOI, USDA frequencies for the air-to-ground and the repeater pairs. Those are all assigned on different time frames. Either if it's USDA DOI frequency, every 21 days I have to re-request the use of those frequencies, and I have to keep the Washington office informed that we're using those frequencies. So that's why we want our special repeaters and everything else kicked back to us. If it's an FAA frequency, or once we run out of USDA DOI and we go after what's called AGA, all government agency frequencies, or NTIA, which is the National Telecommunications and Information Administration frequencies, those are assigned to us on a 30-day process. If we're using AGAs and NTIAs, I have to do a daily report of where those frequencies are being used and what they're being used for. So again, it comes back to making sure we're using the frequencies judiciously, returning everything as soon as possible, because I have to re-request all of these frequencies either on a 21-day or a 30-day assignment. When we have when ordering frequencies on an emerging incident, some of the pre-orders that we have come in are for 2 air-to-air AMs, 2 air-to-ground FMs, and in California they'll also add an additional air-to-air FM. We would like to see just 1 and 1, 1 air-to-air, 1 air-to-ground, and if in California, 1 air-to-air FM. It helps us in our frequency process, so on the pre-orders, please be checking those and make sure you got them, and of course, again, release all the frequencies as soon as possible. Don't place radio orders directly to the IDGBK cache. Now that we have ROS and what's called ICBSR, and I can't remember what the acronym for ICBSR, Incident Business Cache Reporting System, I believe, but I could be wrong on that. Some of the geographical area coordination centers, the expanded dispatches, they have an opportunity in ROS to drop down an arrow and place it right straight to ICBSR. If that happens, we don't see them in the CDO office, and your order gets lost and gets buried, and it can take time to find that. So there's a normal ordering process. When you do place that request in through ROS, it needs to go from the supply ordering unit up to expanded. Expanded needs to kick it up to the GAC. The GAC kicks it over to Nick, and Nick pushes it over to us, and we will select the frequencies. Once again, it all has to do with the frequency assignments that we're putting in this stuff to deconflict and make sure you guys are safe. And then we push it to ICBSR once we pick what we're going to fill it with. So please ensure that, okay, I was just handed what the ICBSR stands for. It's Interagency Cache Business System. So I had it wrong. Anyway, thanks, Marcus. So anyway, if you can make sure that those orders are being placed correctly, it would be greatly appreciated. We need your help out there so that you get your time-sensitive supplies in a timely manner. If we have to try to track it down, it just causes all kinds of problems for the CDO, for the comm unit leader, for the comm coordinator to try to find out where they are. Remember that the communications unit leader is the frequency manager on that incident. So every single frequency that is requested needs to come through the CDO. I know we've got some air ops folks out there that try to place their orders right straight to dispatch to get those orders coming. Our policy is at the CDO office or the COMC, we're going to be calling the comm unit leader to see if he's aware of that issue. If you're not talking to your comm unit leader and he's not aware, it can slow down the process for ordering your air frequencies. So please ensure that your comm unit leaders are talking to your air ops to see what their needs are so that we can fill them. Just wanted to really quick go over some quick statistics from last year. Last year, August 11th, this is a snapshot of some of the fires that we had going on August 11th. And every one of these little campfires is an actual project fire that we had either radio equipment or frequencies on that we were tracking at NIFC in the CDO office. So on the morning of August 11th, we could build 6 more 4390 starter systems. That was all we had available to us on August 11th. We could support 6 more fires with the starter systems. After that, we had plenty of repeaters, the 4312s. We had 26 of those. We had 23 logistics repeaters. We could have supported building more frequencies out to the systems. We didn't have any for 4370s after we built the 6 starter systems. So there was no flight following, none of the aircraft links. We only had 9 remotes. We had 21 logistics radio kits and 0 command TAC radio kits. So we were pretty much in a drawdown at NIFC on August 11th. We had 223 assignments on 14 incidents in the Northwest Coordination Center, which is an awful lot of frequencies in use on 14 incidents. We know you guys were busy. We did our best to fill everything. We had 72 frequencies on 7 incidents in Northern California and 56 frequencies on 8 incidents in the western part of Northern Rockies. Now that doesn't include the tactical frequencies that we're using. So the tactical frequencies, we've only got 6, 3 Forest Service, 3 BLM, and that causes a problem. I'm going to get into just a little bit more statistics. Last year, 2014, we requested 1,605 temporary frequencies from the Washington office. We went after all government agency frequencies and all of the NTIA frequencies to support those incidents in those areas. Now, 1,605 is a big difference from what the previous screen showed with the 223, 72, and 56. But remember, I request frequencies. They might be available in one zone, and because we use them in that one zone, we can't use them for a 150 nautical mile radius outside of that zone, so that frequency might not be available to support another incident. That's why we have such a high number of frequency uses. We have used every single available frequency that the DOI, the USDA, NTIA had available for us with the AGAs and everything in Washington last year. There was absolutely nothing else left on August 11th. At that point, one of our employees, Mike Kawaneman, was able to go to the state of Washington and ask for a couple more frequencies. They kicked in 4 frequencies. Within 3 hours, those other 4 frequencies were actually assigned to incidents, and we were out again. So frequency management is a very big part of what we do to support the communications part of LCES. So I just want you to know that we're doing everything we possibly can, but with everybody asking for more frequencies, we start running out. And there could be a chance that we have emerging incidents and we have nothing to support them with. So we need to have you guys doing your due diligence to use those frequencies judiciously and releasing them as soon as possible.
I have a question for you, Gary, quickly. What was the NTIA again on that last graph?
National Telecommunications and Information Administration. They are the part of the Commerce Department in Washington, D.C., and they are the ones that manage all of the federal frequencies.
Thank you.
So last year, I just want to touch bases on this. We had a SafeCom filed or a SafeNet filed by some of the interagency hotshot crews. They got some of their what we call intra-crew frequencies that they are supposed to use for logistical purposes within their crews. They're tone protected, but they said that all of our tactical frequencies were in use so much that they had to use their inter-crew frequencies for doing bucket work, for doing downhill line construction. They were saying that there was no additional frequencies available, and they were using them outside of the scope of what they're actually authorized to use them for because we didn't have anything else. The reason I want to bring this up is this year, this year some of the hotshots will probably be coming to their division soup or their operations folks and requesting additional frequencies for their tactical. We want to ensure that all of those frequencies actually are requested from the IHCs, go through operations and division soup to the communications unit leader. We see this as being everybody being aware of situational awareness. If the IHCs are using a frequency to do downhill line construction, bucket work, whatever else, everybody else needs to know exactly what's going on those. So those frequencies should be known by the division soups, the operations branch. The communications unit leader has to be the one that requests them, so the COMLs are probably going to get hit with some more of these requests. We'll do our best to support them, but every time we take one of the air-to-ground or repeater pair frequencies and turn it into a tactical, that's one more frequency that we don't have to support an emerging incident. So, like I said, I have to hit on this very hard. Equipment isn't the issue, it's the frequencies that are the issue. We are running out. Everybody gets used to having a cell phone, and they want instant communications right now. Everybody's communications is very important. We want to ensure that everybody is using the proper frequencies, adhere to the authorized frequency policies, and don't just pick something because it's in your radio and you might not hear something. That other frequency has an assignment somewhere else, and you could be interfering with somebody you have no idea. It could be a law enforcement frequency. It could be anybody else could have that frequency. It could be a trail crew that's having some problems and they haven't been using it, but all of a sudden they need it. And if somebody's using an illegal frequency, you don't know who you're interfering with, so adhere to that. Some of the things that we're looking at to help with the find additional frequencies, we're researching the potential of some additional frequencies, military band, they're UHF. It could require that the hotshots carry a second radio. That would also include that the division suit would need a second radio and operations would need a second radio if they have to do that. We're kind of researching the dual band radio capabilities. It takes time. They would have to be fire certified. So, the technology isn't out there right now, so we're still looking at that, and we're looking at testing some of the digital modes for the interagency hotshot crews. So just be aware that that's some of the things that we're doing. I kind of skipped over this other slide up here on some of the issues. You just can't take your frequency from your home unit. The National Multi-Agency Coordination Group, NMAC, has written a couple of letters on the appropriate use of radio frequencies. If you go to the NIFC.gov website, you can go to the NMAC tab, pull up NMAC resources, and there's a letter there that your communications folks could read, or if the communications folks don't do the briefing, the logistics chiefs do it. If you could pull that and read that letter out to folks during the briefing, you get the word that, hey, we're really kind of taking this seriously. Please use what is appropriate and authorized. We're not only trying to protect you, we're trying to protect everybody else that's out there that's using those frequencies. I want to just touch base on the air-to-air AM frequency requests. Like I said, all of the air-to-air AM frequencies that we utilize are engineered by the FAA. They're FCC frequencies, but the FAA has radio frequency assignments on every one of those, and those are all coordinated on a latitude, longitude specific location. How we request those frequencies is when we get an order in ROS, we take the lat and long that's on the ROS order as the ignition point of the fire. We send up to the FAA, and they engineer every one of the air-to-air AM frequencies on a service volume. So it's a 20 nautical mile radius from the ignition point of that fire on a 5,000 foot above ground level, AGL. They're only authorized on 30 days. So your communication folks, or if you're in your night briefing and the Commo isn't there and the logistics section chief is there and Air Ops is saying, hey, our fire is growing, you guys know that it's growing, your airspace requirements might be changing. If it's going outside and you're doing a TFR on a larger radius that's outside that 20 nautical mile radius, the FAA has to be notified, and they have to double check that frequency and re-engineer to see if that frequency is going to work outside that 20 nautical mile radius. It could change. We might not have to change it. Last year on the King Fire, we were able to get a frequency on a 50 nautical mile radius, which really helped out everybody, and we didn't have to change that frequency. But that is up to the FAA. We don't make those policies. We don't assign those frequencies. Those all come from the FAA. The other thing is, if you know that you need additional air-to-air AM frequencies, make sure you're ordering those early. The frequency managers for the FAA, we have a very good working relationship with them. They're a true interagency partner. We don't pay their overtime. It all comes out of the FAA budget. So, you know, these guys, there's been times I've called the frequency manager of the FAA at 2 o'clock in the morning and say, I've got to have something for 6 o'clock in the morning so that we can have this in the plan and ready to go for the next operational period. The FAA has 2 to 12 hours to respond to one of our requests. These guys are great. There's been instances where we've got frequencies back for them in as little as 23 minutes. So just make sure that you're pushing those requests on up through the proper channels. Go to your common leader, have him place that request up through the ordering, up through expanded, up to the GAG, up to NIC, and over to the NIICD, and we will take care of ordering those frequencies. This is just a quick snapshot. This is an old picture. It's a 1993 snapshot of the frequency used by the FAA. I'd just like to throw this up there so that people can see that, you know, they deal with a lot of different frequencies, and every one of those circles has an assignment. So when they're doing their engineering, they have to make sure that they're protecting all of those other users just as well as protecting us to make sure that we're safe and not getting interfered with or interfering with anyone else. So I wish I could find a new picture. I wish I could find a picture of how we do the air-to-ground FMs or the repeater frequencies, but that would probably take quite a while, and I don't think my boss would pay for that. So I don't have that picture, but I would like to. This is just an idea of what goes on with some of the spectrum issues that we deal with on a daily basis. Again, the air-to-ground frequencies. Every air-to-ground frequencies, NTIA, National Telecommunications and Information Administration, has a guideline of how we're supposed to use our frequencies. We live in the frequency band between 162 megahertz and 174 megahertz, and every 12.5 kilohertz there's a frequency in there. There's quite a few frequencies. Just for the USDA, DOI, there's 192 frequencies that I have access to right off the bat that I can go to the Washington office and ask for permission to use on a temporary basis. But the NTIA says that all of the air-to-ground or simplex frequencies have to be between 166.5 and 169.5 megahertz. So there's just a very small band in there where we pull our air-to-ground and our tactical frequencies from. Everything else is supposed to be used for repeaters, repeater input, repeater output. So, you know, we make sure that we have all of those frequencies available for you. But when I go to look for a frequency for air-to-grounds in that band, a lot of times there's not a lot there. We coordinate, the CDO coordinates with all of the Forest Service and the DOI spectrum managers. They can release additional frequencies if we have them available, but all of those frequencies have to come on an A number. If you're asking for an additional tactical frequency, we're going to want that frequency to come in on a number for that additional tactical frequency. That way we can track the usage. We can make sure that it's released. One of the things the Commo is going to have to make sure that they're telling the people who get this temporary tactical frequency that it's only to be used on a 20 nautical mile radius only on that incident, and it must be released from the radio when they leave because it's used by somebody else somewhere else. So it comes down to frequency management. That's my whole spiel. Frequency management, release quickly, use them judiciously, don't use your home unit frequencies, make sure you're legal. That's what we're trying to do, is ensure that we're protecting the user and protecting the other licensed users that are out in the field. Assigned incident frequencies should be released immediately after the incident. Once it goes back to the local agency that has jurisdiction over that, we can leave some of those frequencies if we absolutely have to, but that's going to be done through coordination with the CDO or the COMC if one is available. For those transitions, we're going to want, again, a time frame on how long you're going to need those, because I have to request them on 21-day, 30-day assignment, depending on what it was. Frequencies are not to be moved from one incident to the other without the coordination and approval, because, once again, we go out that 150-mile radius every time we assign one. They're only on a 20 nautical mile radius assignment, but frequencies don't stop. They keep going. California is a perfect example. We have a lot of issues. We've got a valley right down the middle. We have fires over on the Lassen or the Plumas, and we get fires over on the Mendocino, and they can talk right across that valley very, very easily. There's no terrain to stop those frequencies, so you don't want to move anything without coordinating through the CDO or the COMC. There's a question that came up on some of the NIFC frequencies. Those are the interoperability channels that we have as federal users. We cannot program those frequencies into our radio unless we have a non-federal entity on the fire and we need those for coordination. We can do it with a verbal handshake, or it can be written in an MOU, mutual operation of understanding, to be able to utilize those frequencies, but we can't, as federal employees, program those frequencies in our radios without being invited by a state entity. They're only for interoperability. So as communications folks, if you want an electronic copy of the NIFC, that's the non-federal interoperability channel group, there's a website down here on the bottom that you can download that guide. Remember, this is only a guide. It does not set policy. It is only a guide and a technical reference for folks so that they have that information at hand, how they can be used, and everything else. So if we're not invited by a state entity, we can't use those frequencies as federals. Just to quickly overview what the communications duty officer does, we are a national level coordination and assignments for incident frequencies and equipment on a national scale. We don't look at just a gap. We don't look at just your fire. We're looking at everything that's going on nationally and ensuring that all of the frequencies that we assign are legal, authorized, and there's no chance for any kind of interference. We help the communal leaders determine technical capabilities between proposed incident radio systems and radio frequency assignments that are out there on a national basis. We coordinate with the GACs if we need to assign tactical frequencies for the command or air frequencies. We do all of the initial attack, extended attack frequency coordination. All of those come from the frequency managers. We're the collection point. The CDO is the collection point that distributes all the initial attack frequencies and everything else. We're there to help resolve incident radio frequency interference issues related to incident radio systems within the United States and coordinate the international interference issues with Mexico and Canada. So when we get fires along the borders, we need to ensure that we're not interfering with them and they're not interfering with us. We track every single frequency assignment that we have. We have a very powerful database that I can show you what is in use at any particular time of any frequency that I have available to you. What's used for, the duration of use, and everything else. So we track every single frequency. We coordinate with the Forest Service and the Department of Interior and Federal Aviation Spectrum Managers for all temporary assignments. And like I said, we have this very powerful database that has all the frequencies. We also have communications technicians, communications unit leader names, communications coordinators names, and if you get into a bind and you're looking for people that are hard to find, call the CDO. A lot of times we'll have people that we can help get you additional personnel out there to help on your incident. We help solve all of the communications equipment problems. We're there to work with the comm unit leader. If they're having a technical issue with their equipment, all of our technicians on the bench are available to help with any kind of troubleshooting that might happen out there. So, we're a great resource to you folks that are out in the field. One of the things I want to say is all of our radio equipment we keep extreme tight records on. So we don't want you to, as a contact or a comm unit leader, to be fixing the NIFC equipment. If you're fixing that equipment out in the field, we have no idea what you've done to it, and we don't have a record. We keep records on every single radio that we have in the shop, from life to death, and we track mortality parts, everything. So if you're fixing the NIFC equipment, please do not do that. Tag the radio if it's bad, turn it upside down, request additional radios, and send those ones back to us so that we can take care of them. When communications requirements exceed normal operations, the CDO will contact the GAC and say, hey, look, we're getting real busy on a national scale. We notice you've got a lot of activity going on in your geographical area coordination center. Would you order up a COM seat? The communications coordinator is kind of an extension of the CDO. They're looking at a geographical area rather than nationally, and they're a huge asset to the CDOs. It takes a lot of pressure off of us, and they will be contacting every one of the comm unit leaders and working with you folks in the field on a local level. What the comm coordinator duties and responsibilities are, they manage the allocation of communications resources at the geographical level. This includes communications equipment, frequency, personnel, and all the associated supplies. The CDO only tracks the frequency-specific equipment. The COMC will track every single piece of equipment that you have out there on the incident. So they'll be calling you on a daily basis. They maintain an accurate inventory of everything that you have, frequencies, personnel, and everything under their control. They keep current on availability of communications resources for future geographical area or national requirements. They know what's going on in all of the adjacent gaps. If we have a situation where we've got a comm coordinator in Northwest, and we have one in North Ops, and we have one in Great Basin, and we have one in Northern Rockies, those guys are talking amongst each other and seeing what's going on. They're also feeding all of that information to the CDO. We mirror everything that they have. We're feeding them the information, and we're talking back and forth, but they're the ones that are actually doing the talking to the comm unit leaders on the fire. They provide problem-solving recommendations and advice on communication issues to the respective geographical area coordinators, so that the GAC managers, area command teams that they have in they're talking to the area commands to help set priorities for what fires need what and who gets what. They're also talking to the incident management teams and helping you guys to know exactly what you need. If you get a complex or if you're a very simple single incident, they're talking to you and seeing what your needs are and helping you out on a daily basis. They're there to assist you with your system designs and help you with any additional specialty equipment that might come up. We do have some specialty stuff that all the COMCs are aware of. If you have a situation where you can't talk, they might have a solution, as well as the CDO might have a solution. But when you're in a real pinch and we've got so many COMCs out, they're the ones that you guys be talking to. So when we get into a real heavy situation like we did in Northwest Coordination Center last year, the COMC might request additional roving COM coordinators or field COM coordinators or contacts that will actually work for them out of the GAC. They're on a GAC resource order. These folks might come out to your fires. They're there to help you. They're not there as spies. They're not there to take your equipment away. They're just touching bases with you, making sure everything's going good, and seeing if you need any help with anything whatsoever. So they're out there as a resource available to you. The launch folks want to talk to them. They're more than welcome to talk to anybody. They're not going to be assigned to the incident. Like I said, they're on a GAC resource order, so they work directly for the COMC. If we get into more frequencies than the COMC can handle, he might request an air operations COM coordinator that will just do the aviation side. So you might have one doing the tactical operational side and one that's doing the aviation side as a COMC. So you could be talking to two different COMCs out there in the gap. Some of the required information that we as CDOs or COMCs have to have, this stuff is critical for the COM coordinator or the CDO to have from the communications unit leader, is a copy of the 205. You guys are doing the 205s every single day. It only takes a moment to send it to us. We're also going to want a copy of the 220. The reason we need this is because we all get tired sometimes. We fat finger things. We're double checking to make sure that our database matches what you're using and what we've given you, and ensuring that there's not going to be any problems down the road. We're there to protect you from any kind of interference that might happen, whether it's a fat finger, you did it, I did it, doesn't matter. We just want to double check. So we require the COM unit leaders or contacts to send us a copy of that 205, the 220, and the system design diagrams. The reason we need the system design diagrams, and it's critical for us to have, is we can plot where you have your repeater set up with a lat long, and we can tell before interference happens that there might be an interference issue. We're tracking it the way that we're supposed to. It's to protect you. It's not to make more work for you. It's not that we're trying to see what you're doing. It's basically for frequency coordination so that we can protect you guys and make sure that you are all safe. We can deconflict every single frequency that we use. I mean, we have a really good track record on no interference issues with most of the incidents that go out there. I was a comm unit lead for many years. I can say that the CDOs and the COMCs have done a wonderful job. Hopefully I'm doing the same type of job to protect you communications unit leaders from any interference you might be getting out there. The COM coordinators are very professional, so are the CDOs. We do use the militia to bring in CDOs. This year we had a training class to bring on more COM coordinators to go out in the field and help. Their first assignment will be to sit in the CDO office, see everything on a big picture, and then we will start sending those folks out to the field so that they will be a COM coordinator on a local level. One of the things the COM coordinator does is they deal a lot more with the geographic coordination centers. They're on the morning IC calls. They're on the aviation briefing calls. They're trying to make sure that everything is covered more so than what the CDO has time to do. So they're a very integral part of our fire organization. Some of the pre-order stuff, you know, when you get to an incident, you order a 4390 starter system, but everybody that comes to that incident has their own radios. NIFC has what's called a communications unit leader kit. It's a 4320, NFUS number 004320. It is available to every communications unit leader out there, but what that kit contains is only the radios that are in the NIRSC, the National Incident Radio Support Cache. We do not support the realm K and Gs. We don't support the Bendix King Commander GPH or GPH. You guys might see all kinds of different radios out there. And we don't support the cloning cables. They're extremely expensive. We don't have the radios in our cache, so we can't supply one in that kit. So you might see those. If somebody comes into you as a comm unit leader and say, hey, I've got this weird radio, can you program it for me, and you're not comfortable doing that, the true interoperability case is give them one of the NIFC cache radios. Now they've got a radio that's programmed, and they can talk on the same system, and you don't have to worry about it. So that is the solution for that. When you're requesting additional equipment, as a CDO or a comm coordinator, please call us and let us know that you're placing an order for additional equipment. We know you're busy. It doesn't take an awful lot of time while you're walking your resource order over to the supply unit to order that thing. Call the CDO, call the comm coordinator and say, hey, I just placed this, it's critical need, it's coming your way. That way we can help the time-sensitive equipment. If it gets lost in the ordering, we know that it's coming. It's horrible to be sitting on the CDO desk and get a call from Nick and say, hey, we've got this fire that just ordered 2 4312s. I haven't had a chance to find any additional frequencies. I don't know what I'm going to send you. So if you give us a heads up, it helps speed up the process. So before you place any additional requests for equipment, please call the comm coordinator or the COMC just so that we can verify your need and start our work to ensure we're getting stuff to you in a timely manner. All secondary repeater requests will be filled through Boise, through the NIRSC. So we do not pre-position secondary, tertiary, third, fourth, fifth repeaters out there in the field. We only fill them out of Boise. So there is a time delay there, so make sure you're talking to the CDO or comm coordinator and ensuring that we have that information beforehand. Equipment demobilization. Everything is supposed to be inventoried and sealed and returned to NIFC immediately or to the local agency that has jurisdiction. So a lot of times the GAC wants everything shipped from the fire back to the cache, and then the cache will ship it back to us. But there have been situations where we are in a drawdown like we were on August 11th of last year. We will be calling the fire and say, hey, do you have anything available that you're not using? Please send it back to us. FedEx immediately. Don't send it back to the cache. So there are other situations where we might be asking you to release anything. All of the NIRSC equipment shall not be moved from one incident to another if it's been opened. If it's red sealed and you have not used it, we might be able to move it from one fire to another, but that takes coordination through the CDO or the comm coordinator. So if you have a situation where you're moving from one fire to the other and you need to take your equipment, make sure you're talking to the CDO or the comm coordinator, and we will do our best. Remember, once again, it's not an equipment issue or supply issue, it's a frequency issue. So we are worried about where those frequencies can be used. So it's on a case-by-case basis. On your pre-orders, what we would like to see as CDOs When you're going out to a fire, a brand new fire, one air-to-air AM, one air-to-ground FM. If you're in California, one additional air-to-air FM. Some of the teams will have orders for 2 air-to-airs, 2 air-to-grounds right off the bat, and you get there and then the incident doesn't do anything. That has happened, but you get there and you need them. We will do it on a case-by-case basis. Please in the pre-orders, only request 1 air-to-air, 1 air-to-ground, 1 air-to-air FM if you're in California. Remember, the communications unit leader is a very intense job. It requires a person to be vigilant on all the different aspects of the communication field, not just the technical, but the personnel, the meetings, everything you have to do. The comm coordinator, the CDO, is there to help you in any manner we can. So just be aware that we are there. That kind of concludes my brief overview of what's going on in the communications world. I've got my contact information up there, the CDO contact phone number. That phone is staffed 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The 800 number is rolled into that same number, so if you call into one of those numbers, somebody will answer you if you have a question or a concern. My contact information is there on the bottom. Feel free to contact me at any time except for 2 o'clock in the morning, and I will be able to help you as much as I possibly can. We're all here to help you, and one thing that I can say about NICD, the National Interagency Communications Division, I, as the CDO, consider myself to be the C, or our shop, not myself. I consider our shop to be the C in lookouts, communications, escape routes, and safety zones. So we take it very, very personal. Everybody in that shop feels the same way. So we are your safety net for communications. Please feel free to call us or contact us.
Great. And if anybody had any questions out there, feel free to use the raise your hand button, or you could type that up, and Josh McDaniel will be helping us find those questions. I did have one question. I don't know if it's appropriate to ask, but the narrow banding had occurred already, and there's an additional need to narrow band further. How far out is that going to be now? We're talking years out yet?
You're talking about going to the digital, the 6 1/4.
Correct.
That is some years out from funding. Right now, NTIA is working on what they call their 2019 plan. What they're doing is they're ensuring that all the agencies that are managed by NTIA are adhering to the repeater low, repeater high, and then the simplex channeling plan that they have come up with. And so that is the first step. Once we get through that 2019 plan, I assume, and I'm just guessing, that's when they will start looking at doing another split to the digital narrow.
Okay.
And maybe we'll get more spectrum at that time.
Right. Thanks, Gary. And I'm still looking to see if there's other questions out there, and I'm not picking up any yet. Do you see any out there in the written world, Josh?
Nope, nothing here.
Okay.
All right, well, I appreciate you guys' attention. Like I said, feel free to contact me at any time except for 2 o'clock in the morning. I probably should say between 12 and 6, because I'm sure some people call me at 12 or 2:30 just because I said 2.
Very good. Thanks for your presentation, Gary. Appreciate that.